Hey, Bills Mafia. We know there's only one topic every day. All Bills, all the time. And now Matt Beauvais and Sal Capaccio are going really deep, talking Bills all year long, because it's always game day in Buffalo.
Matt, you see what you have to look forward to in a few years when your daughter is doing some sort of extracurricular activity at night. I am recording this podcast as my son Max and his travel baseball team are currently practicing behind me at a local field house.
I have always been very adamant that hockey is the play. I did not grow up in a baseball family. Never played baseball, Little League. My reasoning on hockey is some people think it's crazy. I don't. Hockey happens in the months that you're okay missing things. Right. Hockey happens from, you're getting it now with Max. Hockey happens from like the fall until late spring. And then you get your summers. Baseball, you're just starting baseball season, right? And you're going all the way through the summer?
Oh, listen, no, we've been practicing indoors for really since December, maybe January.
Yeah.
And, it just depends on different times. You're right. That's what it is. But I agree. I am a big proponent of playing multiple sports. And when it's that season, when it's hockey, that comes first. We have a conflict. It's that season sport that matters, right? And I always preach that to the kids I coach, whatever. Like, hey, if you can play multiple sports, please go do it. But whatever sport you're in season for should always take precedent over the sport you're not in season for. Now, that said, it's been a whirlwind. We just wrapped up hockey last week with a tournament. Shout out to the North Buffalo or Buffalo Shamrocks if you want to. We won the Pepsi tournament of the Pee Wee division. Max was a part of that team. And then literally now we ended that and we go to his school hockey team, which they're going to start. And that's actually a spring sport for a little while for their middle school team while he's doing baseball. So it's kind of like a juggling act all over the place.
So literally every night you've got something.
Pretty much. That's the way it is this week. Yeah, for sure. We got baseball, and in baseball is a couple days a week now because we're getting closer. And honestly, Matt, the end of March around Western New York, that's when indoor baseball kind of ends and most teams start going outside. But we don't know what the weather's going to be in April, but that's when teams start to do it.
Yeah, we're recording this for everybody on Wednesday, March 19th, Wednesday evening. It is currently 70 degrees outside. It was the nicest day I can remember since probably November, and it's a shame that it's going to end. Tomorrow morning, I believe, Thursday morning is going to be nice. Then probably by the time most of you are listening or watching this, it's going to be cold again. We have to deal with it for probably 2 weeks, but then I always think get to April. April's not the finish line because sometimes we still get bad weather in April. But once we get to April, I feel like we start to turn a corner and we can kind of settle into spring and summer.
Yeah, for sure. It's up here mentally, right? It gets to March, I'm feeling good. And then you get to April, you're like, all right, we're right there. May is right around the corner. I do remember, though, a little before your time, 1989, Mother's Day, big snowstorm in May. I remember that.
Oh, that's disgusting.
I know.
Terrible. That shouldn't be allowed. There should be a hard cutoff of April 1st. It can't snow after April 1st.
No doubt. But we know that could very well be possible. And we know that the NFL calendar never stops. So that's why we talk about it here on It's Always Game Day in Buffalo. Welcome in, Sal Capaccio, Matt Beauvais. Make sure you subscribe to the pod. All the information is right down there at Sal Sports on YouTube to watch us. And of course, wherever you pod, Spotify, Odyssey app, everywhere else here, and iTunes, of course, you can do that too. All right, so the big news, I think, this week for the Bills, really the last few days, was the news that Matt Milano's contract was restructured. Now, normally that would be big news in itself, but really particularly the way this one was restructured made it a little bit more newsworthy. I'll explain. Matt Milano, as a lot of you seen from some of the sites out there, myself included, reporting that he has taken a $3 million pay cut, which will essentially be a $3 million cap relief for the Bills. However, he will have the ability to earn all of that $3 million back through incentives with playing time, sacks, interceptions, and they will be reachable incentives. So I think he'll be able to do that, not knowing the exact numbers, but I know there'll be reachable incentives for him. But as a trade-off, Matt Milano will have 1 year shaved off his contract, Matt, and he will become a free agent after this year instead of after 2026. So he has 1 year left in the Bills uniform. Doesn't mean the Bills can't re-sign him. But with this move, you would think it's probably more unlikely because they'll take a dead cap hit either way for him next year. Now, I do want to point out, even though this was reported and happened, it's really the paper transaction that kind of happened this week. This has been in the works for a couple of weeks. I would say even before free agency began to help the Bills get cap compliant. I don't think this means some big move is coming, Matt.
Yeah, this was something that, we first had a conversation about, not on the podcast, about hey, this is something to be aware of. before they made any of the other big moves. So even though the news just came out, like Sal's mentioning, don't take this as the Bills are breaking glass in case of emergency because they need to open up more space to go sign player A or player B. Now, we will answer some questions at the end of this podcast, but there is a question specifically about Milano. So I wanted to ask it to you because you're our salary cap guru. This is from Jason. He says, if saving $3 million on the cap for Milano's pay cut, if he reaches his incentives to get the $3 million back, then did we even save any cap space, or does it count different? In which case, why does not everybody have these reachable incentives? It's a really good question.
It's a great question. I'm going to explain it as best I can because it can be confusing. There are two types of incentives you can get in a contract: likely to be earned and not likely to be earned. The only way that they are considered one or the other is this: if you hit that particular mark last year, and that's the incentive this year, it's likely to be earned because you did it. If you didn't hit it last year, regardless of circumstance, it's not likely to be earned. If it's a likely to be earned incentive, it counts on this year's cap, no matter what, even when you sign the contract. If it's not likely to be earned, it doesn't count until next year after you hit the incentives. So because he only played 4 games, all of the reachable incentives are actually going to be not likely to be earned since he didn't actually make those marks last year, if that makes sense. So they made them reachable for this year, but even though they're reachable this year, they'll be considered not likely to be earned, and the $3 million that he gets back will go into next year's cap once he does.
This is why, everyone, if you're listening to this and your head spinning, you did a great job explaining it.
Thank you.
This is why every NFL team has a group of people just to work on the salary cap and contracts, because there's all of these different ways that you can manipulate the salary cap. And some people like to say, the salary cap's not real or the salary cap's fake. There are ways that it can be manipulated. And if you're not taking advantage of those, you are not doing everything in your power to win. And I think that this is the Bills not knowing a loophole, because it's not a loophole, but it's a way of taking it. Everybody does it. It's a way of taking advantage of the rule because he was out for pretty much all of last year. You can use that to your advantage now with trying to save a little bit of cap space. And then next year, assuming it goes up again, probably another $10 or $15 million, then you just deal with it next year. Keep pushing it down the line. Keep pushing it down the line. That's what all these teams do.
I'd also answer this question that I've gotten a lot this week, which is, why would Matt Milano do this? Well, there's a couple of reasons. Number one, he's betting on himself to have a really good year, and he becomes a free agent. And there's a big difference, Matt, being a free agent at 32 than 33. Right. Yeah. I mean, he'll be he's a linebacker. He's had injuries, obviously, but if he can rebound and have a strong year, he's betting on himself to do that. He becomes a free agent at 32. Now he can make a lot more money on the open market than if he's a free agent at 33. And honestly, folks, the other reason is he likes being in Buffalo. And I will tell you that I know a lot of people close to Matt Milano, and one of the reasons he did this was because he likes his teammates. He likes his coaches. He loves being in Buffalo. And it's not out of the question he could resign next year. Now, I think it's more unlikely because of the financial implications, but that's part of the reason he did it, because he likes being in Buffalo. This is the one place he's been. And I believe he just bought a house recently, from what I was told, within the last couple of years. So this is home for him now. And he's betting on himself after this year to have a really good year, help the Buffalo Bills, and then become a free agent.
Yeah, let us tell you how much Matt Milano likes Buffalo, because I don't think he's going to tell you how much he likes Buffalo. Right. But we both do know and have had conversations with people very close to him, like you said. I think that this is him realizing that, hey, he's in the second half of his career. He's in, the final stretch of his career, as some people call it. He wants to finish what he started in Buffalo. He knows the opportunity that this team has this upcoming season. He wants to be part of that opportunity, and he's betting on himself. Who knows? I don't think it absolutely means that he's gone next year. I think it means we'll see what he's got in the tank this year.
Yeah.
So I think that he is betting on himself, and players like that do that, right? Like, he's made a lot of money in this league for a 5th-round pick. It's a heck of a story. He has become a very, very important player to this organization, somebody who is very beloved by this fan base. And I think that, this is his way of sticking around another year, his way of giving the Bills some flexibility, but also his way of betting on himself.
When we were at the Combine a couple of weeks ago, and I was there with some other colleagues, when I say some of our colleagues, we were having a conversation, and a couple said they predicted that Matt would be a June 1st cut. And I respected that. I didn't think it would happen, just knowing how it was trending. But are you surprised that he actually was not? Are you surprised we're here that he is going to return, even with the restructured deal, that the Bills went that direction instead of moving on?
No, because I still think the Bills believe he gives them their best chance to win, and he was starting to trend back into the right direction at the end of the season in the playoffs. He started to splash a little bit more. I mean, it's to be expected when you're coming back from the injuries that he was coming back from. He started to look like himself a couple, like in the Broncos game and the Ravens game. There were moments where like, oh, that's Matt Milano. Like they need him. They realize the window that they're in. They'll never say, the window is closed or the window is closing. But we've talked about this on the podcast several times. They've got 4 years more of Josh Allen's prime, and I think they want to attack every single one of those years while they can. And having Matt Milano on your team makes you a better team than it would be having to figure out what Dorian Williams and Terrell Bernard look like for an entire season. Now, that's not to say Dorian Williams might never become a full-time starter, but I don't think they're ready for that yet. I think they think Milano at this stage is still a better option.
Terrell Bernard, obviously the starting Mike linebacker. He just signs the extension. Matt's going to come back as the starting Will linebacker. Behind Terrell Bernard, I think it's a good battle. It's going to be between Joe Andreessen and Bale Inspector. I'll say that I think Joe Andreessen wins it, but don't discount Bale Inspector being in the system if he can stay healthy. That's been his issue. But behind Matt Milano, you have Dorian Williams, a guy that really filled in great last year, and you have Eddie Ulofoshio. Do you think the Buffalo Bills draft a linebacker as of right now?
I'm smirking. Can I give you a small update before we do that?
Okay, go ahead.
Stefon Diggs is in Foxborough to meet with the New England Patriots, according to multiple reports. The Patriots badly need wide receiver help, and Diggs could provide that, even if he might not be ready week 1 as he recovers from his ACL tear. That is according to Chad Graff of The Athletic. That was 10 minutes ago. Could potentially Stefon Diggs be back in the AFC East? What a juicy storyline that would be.
Very interesting. By the way, I never thought anything was meant by these pictures on Instagram that showed up of him in the Bills uniform. I would be way more stunned than almost anything I've been stunned or surprised at with the Buffalo Bills. If Stefon Diggs, there was some sort of reunion there. Never, I would not think that at all.
Stefon Diggs is one of those people who absolutely wants to play against his former team multiple times a year and try and prove a point. Absolutely. I think that they are going to pay him a ton of money if he signs with the Patriots, because they have the money. They're just trying to spend money right now. They need to get a weapon for Drake May. I think one of the biggest selling points to him will be playing against the Bills twice next season. More so than maybe
with Mac Hollins too.
Yeah, maybe even more so than a little bit of extra money.
We'll see what happens. Stefon Diggs apparently meeting with the Patriots. Good update there from Matt as we roll on this episode. All right, so I asked a question on the Extra Point Show on WGR Sports Radio 550, really, which I thought of because of Matt Milano. And I'm thinking about, Matt Milano, he's going to have 9 years with the Bills when next year is done. He's a really big, important part of their success since he came aboard in 2017. Think about that draft class. Trey White, Matt Milano, Deion Dawkins. That year they signed Micah Hyde. They signed Jordan Poyer. That was the year before they got Josh Allen. So I asked a question that got a lot of really interesting responses, and I'm interested in your response, Matt. And the way I phrased it is this: other than Josh Allen, if you take all the players that started their Bills career at 2017 or later, they could have been in 2018, 19, or even a rookie last year. It doesn't matter. Could not have played for the team for 2017. Rank the top 5 that have been most instrumental to their success other than Josh. And I got some really, really interesting answers and some that I did not expect to be on the list.
Okay, so I would imagine the no-brainers that everybody said are Deion Dawkins, right? He was probably on everybody's list?
Nope. He is definitely off some people's list. He was not in the top 5 on some, which I think is absurd, but there are some people who did not have him on the list. Most did.
Okay, so I think Deion Dawkins might be 2. And I think the guy we were just talking about, Stefon Diggs.
He was mostly number 1, Stefon Diggs, yes.
Absolutely. Those are the 2 names I immediately thought of. After that, Poyer and Hyde, I feel like go hand in hand.
Some people said I'm going to cheat and put them together. I said, that's fine. But if you had to pick one or the other, I'd say Micah, but I could see Jordan too.
Yeah, I would say both. Okay, so I'll go, my list will be Stefon Diggs 1, Deion Dawkins 2, Micah Hyde 3, Jordan Poyer 4. Then I get to the 5th spot, and that's where it gets tricky to me because there's a lot of names. Oh, you know what? Actually, no. I'm going to go Stephon Diggs 1, Deion Dawkins 2, Taron Johnson 3.
I like that.
And then I'll go Micah Hyde 4, Jordan Poyer 5.
I like your list. It's hard for me to keep Matt Milano off. And I understand he's had injuries lately, but I think what Matt Milano did for that linebacker spot since 2017 really has been incredible. And to me, as great as Micah and Jordan have been together, I do want to separate because I think one of them you could say has been like they've so good together. There's no doubt about it. But I think that like, I don't know how to describe this. I guess maybe, put them together. They are better than, it's almost like 1 + 1 = 3 with those guys. I'm going to agree. I don't know if I'd put Deion number 2. I think we put Taron number 2.
Okay.
But Stephon Diggs, Taron Johnson, Deion Dawkins. I think Micah and then Matt Milano number 5. But I think Jordan's right there. And I think it's a really here's what I was surprised at. I got a lot of people who responded, 2 guys I did not expect. Mitch Morse and Cole Beasley. And the Cole Beasley one was because of what he did to help elevate Josh like Stephon.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I'm having a hard time leaving Tre'Davious off the list as
Trey
well.
was on a bunch of lists.
I mean, it's tough because his fall off happened fast with the injuries.
Yeah.
But from 2017 to 2021, we're talking elite player. Then the injuries happened. Same thing with Milano. I think the Milano injuries are clouding my judgment a little bit. There's a little bit of there's so many answers. There's so many different ways you could go with this too. Like another name that I'm sure a couple people had on their list, like Dawson Knox deserves some love for just kind of what he has meant to the organization.
Joe DiBiase mentioned him when I brought it up to him today.
I know the production has not been there, but it's not a coincidence that they got good when Dawson Knox got here, right? Like he was drafted in 2019. They've made the playoffs every single year since Dawson Knox has been here as just a reliable tight end in some capacity.
I will tell you a couple other guys that were on the list of a couple lists, I should say. Terrell Bernard and Greg Rousseau. Even Von Miller made a list. I don't agree with that one, but those are a couple guys that made a couple people's lists. Had about 100 responses to this. It was very interesting.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else who we're missing.
Okay, could you possibly, I'll give you a name that was on there, LaShawn McCoy. Now, I don't agree, but he was a part of the team that broke the drought, and then he was there for one more year. How about Devin Singletary for 4 years at running back?
Yeah, Devin Singletary, I thought about for a second. The only reason I didn't was because Devin Singletary, even though he was always this team's lead back, he was never like the guy. There was always somebody running with him. There was always either a Zach Moss or a Frank Gore or somebody else there, even a James Cook there. So, Devin Singletary is a good name. I was trying to think about other people on the offensive line who we haven't talked about. Spencer Brown doesn't have the longevity yet, I would say. Mitch Morse is definitely a name that gets thrown in there. I'll tell you this. It was only 1 year, so it's certainly not on this list. But I was ready to, if the Bills won the Super Bowl in the 13-second year, and I won't understand, like it's a big if, I think you could make the argument that Emmanuel Sanders was the most important free agent in Buffalo sports. Just what he did for that team, maybe not even just on the field, he completely changed the way that guy, like that room operated and that entire team thought. I remember talking to him after they lost week 1 to the Steelers, was like the most relaxed human being possible while everybody else is scrambling. Oh my goodness, they're 0-1. Maybe they're not that good. Last year was a fluke. And he was just so, and another guy too, Gabe Davis.
Well, I will tell you, somebody nominated Gabe simply for his playoff success and said, look, he was a good player, but think about the big catches he had in the playoffs that helped his team be successful.
They probably don't beat the Colts in the AFC first AFC championship year without Gabe Davis. They certainly, they still, it's crazy because they still lost the game, but the 4 touchdown performance he had against the Chiefs in the 13-second game is just absolutely absurd. He made some really big catches for this team over the years.
No doubt. Couple people did dominate Christian Benford. I would say the longevity point matters here because he didn't really ascend until his 3rd year, but he has been a starter for 3 years for the Buffalo Bills and, a very integral part. But I think it just goes to show too how many really good players they've had over this time period. And that 2017 group, I mean, boy, those are some names, right? You talk about that class. That's Trey White, That's Matt Milano. That's Deion Dawkins. Then you add in Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde, all in the same year as free agents. I mean, and you think about what they were able to do together. And I just think Ed Oliver was a name that brought up. I don't agree with that, but look, you just have a lot of guys that have been really instrumental there. So really good stuff. Check it out. Yeah, go ahead.
One of the biggest arguments, it's not an argument, but disagreements we've had since starting this podcast was about draft classes, and my take that the 2018 draft class is the greatest. It's not. I understand 1985 is the Bills' greatest draft class of all time. But my point has always been, if they win one, it's not. It's 2018. If they win one with Josh Allen.
What did I say? Did I say it's not? I said 17?
No, you said 1985 with...
Oh, I see. Yeah. That's the great.
And...
that is the greatest draft class right now, I think, in team history. But I think 18 is creeping up there for sure because Josh now has an MVP, also elevates it.
Yeah, for sure. Like if they win a Super Bowl, the players on that team, because it's tough because now so many of them have left. But you still have Josh and you still have Taron Johnson, who are incredibly influential players in this organization. The other names in that draft class: Tremaine Edmonds, really good player; Harrison Phillips, really good player; Wyatt Teller, a really good player.
Yeah.
Saran Neal, who's still popping around the league in some capacity. I think he just got a new deal the other day. So like there's some dudes in that 2018 class.
Okay. I understand that you have a couple of, oh my gosh, you can't, because of every class going to have this, but I think 2022 is coming along pretty damn nice. Now, Kyrie Elam obviously throws it off because he was a first round bust, no doubt about it. Then you had James Cook, Terrell Bernard, Khalil Shakir, Matt Ariza with what happened. He's now back in the league. Christian Benford and Balen Spector.
Yeah, it's funny because you can't do this, but if you just took Benford in the first round and Kyrie in the second round, it would be an A++++. But that's not the way it works. So somehow their biggest whiff of a draft pick will also be one of their best drafts that they've had.
It's amazing. You're right about that. Okay, so the NFL owners meetings are coming up in a couple of weeks down in West Palm Beach. And always this time of year, we get rules proposals that will be put in front of the owners. And we got that today as we talk here on Wednesday, March 19th. Only 3 playing rule proposals in front of the owners. There's playing rules, there's bylaws, and then there's, what is the other one called? Bylaws, and then there's the procedural. I can't think of the name right now. Either way. All right, so here we go.
Playing rules. All right.
So the playing rules, well, I think all of them matter here because there's a couple other ones that I'll get to. But here are the playing rules. The ones that the number one that I thought was really interesting. I had not heard anybody propose this yet until the Detroit Lions did, and it's going to the committee, which is not giving a first down automatically to a defensive holding or defensive illegal contact penalty. So as it is right now, if it's 3rd and 10, you commit one of those penalties, a 5-yard penalty, but automatic first down. And the Lions propose, hey, if it's a first down by yardage, fine, but otherwise it's just a 5-yard penalty. Replay the down. What do you think?
That's the right call, I think. I like this proposal. I'm not a fan. I don't care about the overtime one that we'll get to. I like this proposal because I hate the idea of a 3rd and 21 where, you're just heaving a ball up and hoping something happens. And there's a ticky-tack illegal contact, automatic first down. Because unfortunately, I think if the reffing and the officiating was a bit more consistent, this wouldn't be as big of a problem. But because it is fairly inconsistent, I think this takes a little bit of the refs' impact out of the game, which I don't think is a bad thing. I don't have an issue with that. So of the rules, this is the one that I'm most okay with.
I think so too, but there is a unintended consequence, which is, well, part of the reason they have that rule in the books, Matt, is
so you just can't, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I know what you mean.
Guy's cleanly getting beat. He's just going to drag the guy down and be like, well, instead of he just saved a touchdown. Well, I guess that could happen, but when is it really going to happen? How many times is it really going to happen? If it is, it's generally going to be pass interference anyway down the field because you'd have to do it within the constraint and the construct of, the timing mattering where it wouldn't even cost a first down. So I think you're right. I've always thought it was kind of a weird rule to have on the books, but we'll see. I don't know if it'll have enough support to pass, but the Lions, who, by the way, led the league in those types of penalties last year by a lot. They're the team that proposed that. Okay, the Green Bay Packers basically proposed eliminating the tush push. They don't want the tush push anymore.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that there's going to be some sort of conversation about this. I just think back to what was it, the NFC Championship game. We're in the press box in Kansas City watching the NFC Championship game, and the officials like on the television saying, if this happens again, if the Commanders jump off sides again, we're giving the Eagles a touchdown. And I'm like, what is even happening right now? I have no issue with the tush push. My entire conversation about the tush push is, if you don't like it, don't let the team get into that position. You got to be better on first, second, and third down. That's my entire debate on it. So Sean McDermott has made it clear that he thinks there's a higher risk, a chance of injury. There's a greater risk of injury with that play. I don't know if that's accurate. I don't know if the numbers back that up. I don't have an issue with the tush push, though.
I don't love the tush push. The Bills are great at it, and they have the best, they have a great quarterback for it. Maybe the best, I guess, Jalen Hurts, whatever. But the reason I don't love it, I actually believe it contradicts the NFL's own rules. I believe it falls under the aiding the runner rule. The aiding the runner rule, though, is actually more, you can't go on the other side and pull them forward, which they do, and no one calls it anyway, which is ridiculous.
I was going to say.
But there is a rule on the books that says you can't aid the runner. To me, it's aiding the runner. And I think the NFL actually has a contradiction here of their own rules.
Yeah, but how many times did we see, I understand what you're saying, and I understand it's a rule, but how many times did we see James Cook this year run into a group of people and then his offensive line not pick him up, but push him another 5 yards down the field, and everybody loses their minds?
And I think that should be discussed, if that should be allowed or not.
Well,
we see it a lot, though. You're right. We do see that a lot from a lot of teams, and I think most people are on what you're saying. I just think that it's a bit of a contradiction from what we hear from the NFL from their own rules. All right, and then the overtime rule. You say, I don't really care either way.
The overtime rule is making the overtime in the regular season the same as the postseason. Fine with me. If you want both teams to have a chance at touching the ball for sure in the regular season, I'm totally okay with that. I have no issue. I think that that's fair. But I also don't have an issue either way, because they've already made strides there. I think in the playoffs, it has to be what it is now. I think it was absurd that it wasn't that way beforehand. But in the regular season, the stakes aren't quite what they are in the postseason. So I think that it should pass. But if it doesn't, I'm not going to grab a pitchfork and a torch and lose my mind.
All right. So the reason why I brought up one of the other ones, one's the bylaw proposal. There's playing rules. There's bylaw proposals, and then the last one is called, and I have this here, the resolutions. I don't know. So bylaws and resolutions are off the field. So the bylaw proposal that's very interesting is the Detroit Lions, again, have proposed, Matt, that in the playoffs, if a team who wins the division has a lesser record than a wild card, the wild card still has the higher seed. What do you think about this?
I wonder why they did that. I wonder what the chance, you know what I mean? Last year they were playing in week 17 or week 18, for the potential of that happening to them.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
And they probably believe that playing their starters in week 18 impacted them a lot in the playoffs.
Certainly. I don't disagree with it. I feel like the teams that have the best record should be rewarded for having the best record, regardless of if they won the division or not. I mean, let's think about it in a Bills scenario, right? If the Bills lose the AFC East, like if one of the other teams is better than them and they have 12 wins, but the Texans have 9 wins in the AFC South, don't you think that the Texans should be coming to Buffalo as opposed to the Bills going to Houston? Like, I just don't. I totally agree with the Lions on this one. I don't
listen. Holistically, I think that's right. Like, if I look at it, it sounds right. I'm going to give you the anti and why I think that I don't know if I'm totally okay with this. All right. Because because the teams play different schedules, and I'll even give an example. You could have the AFC East this year. For example, the AFC East this year plays the NFC South. The NFC South is not that good. Mm-hmm. I think the records of all the AFC East teams, Patriots, Jets, Dolphins, could be a little bit more inflated than, let's say, the AFC North teams who might play the NFC North this year. They're all really good. So now you have an AFC North champion who had to go 4 games against the NFC North, but you have an AFC East wildcard team that went against much softer 4 other opponents. There's more of a chance that they're going to have a better record, possibly finishing in second place than the other team did in first place. Does that make sense?
That's fair, but it almost feels like it needs to be on a case by case, and it can't be, because you need a hard rule of this is what's happening. But what if there's a significant difference in win totals? like there was last year in the NFC North, which is, I'm sure.
What if you have a team under 500 win the division, which we've had?
That's what I mean. Like, what if you have one of those retro NFC Wests where 8-9? Well, at that time it was 8-8 was winning the division, and all of a sudden a team that's got 12 or 13 wins has to travel there for the first round of the playoffs. It seems like nonsense, but I understand the integrity of the rule.
And I have had people say, well, then what's the reward for winning the division? Well, that you still make the playoffs. You could, even in this scenario, if you have the 8th best record in your conference, you're still making the playoffs if you win the division. So winning the division is still a reward, even if they move to this, which I just think it's a very interesting proposal. I'm not totally against it, but I do think there's an argument against it. Okay, and then the other one was there's a resolution proposal. By the way, there's a couple of these that I'm like, okay, I got to read through these and figure out exactly what they mean. There's a resolution proposal from the Pittsburgh Steelers that says, hey, instead of not having any contact with a guy you want to sign during the legal tampering period and only talking to his agent, how about you get one phone call or video conference with him and the agent, and then you can actually bring him here as well. I mean, so we'll see where they go with this. Yeah. I don't know if the league will do it because the new league year means a lot to the league. But the one that's very interesting to me is because I'm going to have to ask what this means to Reed Ferguson. Baltimore, Cleveland, Houston, Vegas, Minnesota, Philly, and Washington all proposed to permit clubs to prepare the kicking balls, the K-balls, before game day, a similar process to the regular game footballs. I'm like, they don't already? Like, what happens here? I have no idea. I have to ask Reed what that means.
Yeah, I don't understand that. I've always understood how protective they are of the K-balls and why it's such a big deal to them.
Yes.
But I thought that they would get to have them prepared the same way the normal game, but I don't know. I don't understand that rule either.
We'll have to ask Reed about that. I did not see anything about the dynamic kickoff and the touchback, but I also didn't see anybody say that's not going to be addressed at some point. I still think because teams still are signing kick return specialists like the Bills did with Laviska Shenault, and Brandon Beane echoed what I said. I'm just gonna do this and say, okay, look, everybody asked why they signed Laviska Shenault. I said last week, I think this has a lot to do with the possible 35-yard line touchback kick return. They want to make sure they have guys who are ready to go because we think there's going to be more kick returns. Beane basically said that Friday when he spoke about Laviska Shenault. But Matt, we've seen other teams already signing kick returners even after the rules proposals came out, which tells me maybe it's still on the table in some capacity.
Yeah, maybe it's still on the table. Maybe these are the conversations that they want to have and see how much interest there ultimately is in it. But you know, it's funny. I don't know if there was ever going to, because I made the case a couple podcasts ago that you just made this drastic change. Let's see how this plays out before you make another drastic change. I wonder if that's the way they're thinking about it. I wonder if it's like let's gauge the interest and then we'll do it a year from now or 2 years from now. If it seems to be something that like kind of uniformly across the board people want, it just doesn't seem like we're at that point yet.
Okay, you threw it out on Twitter /X at Matt_Bove and at Sal Sports for some possible questions. Give me some good ones.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good ones.
Yeah.
Chris asks, Chris listens to a lot of these. Thanks, Chris. Your preferred option for pick 30. Let's go position, not individual player. Let's talk more players when we get to April. Your preferred option for pick 30. So give me a position.
Okay, my preferred option is defensive tackle because my preferred option is to find a corner before that. That's why. But boy, I could get to April 26th, 27th. What day is it? 27th, the draft. I could get to that date.
24th, maybe.
Oh, geez, you're right. It is April 24th.
Early.
Thank you. You're right. I could get to April 24th. You could ask me this question, and the answer could very well be corner. It's one of those two right now.
I am a little different. Mine is wide receiver. That is my preferred option. It is not the most realistic option, but I think that you can never have too many weapons for Josh Allen. And I still do not think that the group they currently have constructed is good enough. Now, I like the players there individually. I like Khalil Shakir a lot. I think Josh Palmer is going to be a nice player for them. I'm not completely I think Keon Coleman still has a lot of potential. Who knows what they've got in Curtis Samuel? But I'm like, you need a guy. You need another guy. So to me, if any of those top receivers are available, I think that they should seriously consider them. I don't think they will. I don't think they will. After taking Dalton with their first pick 2 years ago, Keon with their first pick last year, I don't think they would take another wide receiver tight end with their first pick, but I don't think that should stop them.
I want to move on to more questions, but I think this is a great question and debate for you and I to have going forward, because I'm not with you at all. I just think that that to me, it's almost a waste of a first round pick, because I know that guy's not getting the time or the balls or the targets. And I just think you can't do that. So to me, it's just not worth it.
But my question is, if you're drafting a defensive tackle, right, how often is that defensive tackle going to play?
Part of a rotation. I mean, even Dwayne Carter, as a third round pick last year, was becoming a big part of the rotation. I think that a first round defensive tackle becomes a big part of the rotation.
Okay, but they're not playing more. I mean, of course, it matters what kind of defensive tackle they are, but they're not going to play more snaps than that Oliver, and they're probably splitting with Daquan Jones. I mean, depending on what kind of, if they take a 3 tech.
How many snaps is a first round wide receiver playing ahead of Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, Curtis Samuel, and who else is on the roster right now? I mean,
they should be playing a lot more snaps than Curtis Samuel.
But are they?
I mean, it depends.
Josh Palmer, by the way, Josh Palmer is the one I was thinking of too. But I mean, you come in at very least fourth on the depth chart if you want to put Samuel behind him. And I think Samuel's ahead of that person.
I don't know if I agree with that. I feel like if you draft a guy, they might be your third best option, and based off the offense that you have, because I'm thinking the way they've talked about Keon Coleman doesn't make me convinced that they are ready for him to be a starter for them next year, right?
Okay, so this is a Keon Coleman point for you, which I totally respect. But if you think they feel that way about Keon Coleman, wouldn't they also feel that way about a first round rookie? You know what I mean?
Not if they're good.
I guess. I just think pick number 3. They're not picking the top 10 here. That's the difference here.
Sure. It completely depends on the type of player that you're getting, right? But I mean, here's if they drafted Brian Thomas Jr. last year, we're not having this conversation. They would have needed to trade up to get him. But that was a player late in the first round. Like the Jags took him at what, 21, 22?
Mm-hmm.
So, the Bills have the ammunition. That's another question. So that's a nice natural way of getting to the question. Somebody said, what do they do with these 10 picks? Do they make all 10 picks? Do they have the space for 10 picks? What do they even do? I'll start here. I don't think there's any way. This is from Chris. He listens to a lot of the podcast. Thank you, Chris. What do you both think of the best usage of the Bills' 10 draft picks? Draft 10 players, trade a few picks to move up. Here's what I would do. This is just me. I would use your first round pick as is. I would use your second round picks as is. And then I would use a couple of your day 3 picks to try and move in to the third round, get another player who you think can absolutely contribute, and then, have a couple more picks left over. I don't think they need to be drafting any more than 6 or 7 players.
I agree with that. They have 67 on the roster right now. There's room for 23 more. You still have undrafted free agency. You still have free agency going on with some veterans you're going to want to add to that. I do not see them picking 10 players. Here's part of the reason, Matt. Not all 10 guys are making the roster. So basically you're picking guys who at the end of camp, you're going to waive and someone else picks them up anyway. And you have to think about that situation. So I don't see it. And plus, like you said, you can move around the board or even package stuff for next year, trade something and say, well, give us next year's, 6th rounder or something like that. So yeah, that's how I don't see them making 10 picks. I'd be surprised right now if they do. That's a lot in an NFL draft, especially for a team that it's going to be hard for younger guys to fit on the roster and win jobs. I have one for you here. Cole says, do you and Sal ever miss tailgating and jumping through tables in the parking lot? What is your best memory of a Buffalo tailgate before jobs covering Buffalo sports? Well, first of all, Cole, I've never jumped through a table and I won't do that. So thank you for asking. I don't really miss tailgating. It wasn't my thing. I mean, we'll do it if I went to games, but but I still have an opportunity. If I want, I can go there early and I can go to somebody's tailgate and have something to eat or whatever, but I don't miss it per se. What are my memories? My best memories are, I think, when I was a senior in high school and the Bills went to their first Super Bowl and I went to the AFC divisional round against the Dolphins and the AFC championship against the Raiders and the tailgates beforehand and hanging out. And I'm a senior in high school and just how cool it was to be a part of that moment and throwing the football around and grilling and all that whole scene.
I miss tailgating a lot for sure. I had season tickets for a couple of years before I worked, in the industry and at Channel 7. And I was with my buddies. We were in college, and one of my buddies worked at, you remember Ollie's? They still exist.
Yeah.
Ollie's
Yep.
Stuff Cheap. And he got his employee discount on this grill. And we put it in the back of somebody's pickup truck, and we would meet at the fire hall. We would meet at St. Johnsburg Fire Hall in Wheatfield at 7 a.m. on Sunday mornings. We would all drive down to the grass lot. We would park there, and it would just be like set up the grill, figure out what we were cooking. It turned Saturday into an event because Saturday night we would go grocery shopping at like 9 o'clock at night, and we would all buy all of our stuff.
Cool.
We were
That's a cool feeling.
We were broken in college, and it was like, okay, we can buy 24 frozen patties for $12. Like, let's do it. It's only $4 a person or whatever. So yeah, that was always fun. I only did it for a couple of years, but there's something about just being outside with your friends and tossing the football around and just listening to good music and talking about your fantasy football matchup that week, what else is going on in your life. It's just like, those are such a pure fun time.
Love it. What else you got? Anything?
What's your 5 favorite ice cream flavors? This is from Dom Tibbetts.
You don't have to. 5?
No, just pick one. What's your favorite ice cream?
Well, I'll tell you, I have one that's underrated that I don't know if, like, I'm going to say one. You might be surprised. So first of all, I'm a big chocolate guy. So chocolate with almonds is always number one. You can have chocolate with almonds. Like, I like that. Any kind of almond. But I have one that I really like. Maple walnut.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a really good answer.
My mom, it was her favorite growing up. So we'd go to get ice cream. She'd have maple walnut. I was a kid. I'm like, I don't really like it. Mm-hmm. And then as I got older, I liked it a little bit more when I try some. And now I really like maple walnut as a flavor.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. Are you a soft serve or like a hard ice cream guy?
Ooh, mostly hard, but soft's okay, but mostly hard. Maple walnut's a hard flavor. And then of course you can do chocolate. If I do soft, it's generally twist, but chocolate with almonds. And I do coffee. How about coffee? Like a coffee ice cream. I like that too.
Yeah, that's good.
Espresso, whatever, something like that.
I really like soft serve. I would always get soft serve over hard ice cream. So my go-to would be a twist with chocolate sprinkles. Okay. But if I was getting a hard ice cream, I don't think you can ever go wrong with cookie dough. So simple and so good.
Yeah, I like it. Max gets that a lot.
I love piece of cake ice cream. I think that's super good. After that, though, here's a good one. This. How do you pronounce sherbet or sherbet? How do you pronounce that?
Okay, it's great.
It's great. Did you see my poll on this?
No, but when I did not, I'll have to look at it because this is funny because when I was a kid, my favorite ice cream, I would call it orange sherbet.
Yes.
And my mom would laugh and say, that's not how you say it, but and I believe it's sherbet, I think, right?
Okay. So this conversation just happened in my house. She's going to kill me for talking about this, but I don't care. So I go to the freezer. I bought this, right? And I was like, I want some sherbet. And my wife was like, what? I was like, I want to get some of the sherbet that's in the freezer. And she was like, why are you saying it like that? I was like, what do you mean? Why am I saying it like that? Sherbet? That's how everybody ever has pronounced it. And she's like, that's not how it's pronounced. There's not an extra R in it. I was like, no way. So I went and I looked at the ice cream and it says SHRBET, sherbet. Yeah. I'm like, when did they get rid of the R?
So she was like, you did the thing that I did when I was a kid, sherbet.
Yes. So then I posted on X immediately afterwards because I don't feel like I can ever lose. I feel like every argument with my wife or disagreement, I lose because, that's what we do. 2,400 people responded. 86% pronounce it sherbet. So more than 2,000 people are on our side with this conversation. So I was really happy about that.
That's good because you just validated kindergarten Sal. Did you see my kindergarten picture I posted?
I did. That was really good.
My mom dressed me like this. We had pictures at WGR. So I said, you know what? I might recreate this. That collar could poke somebody's eye out. Look at that thing.
It looks good. I mean, the first thing I noticed was the hair.
Yeah, for sure.
Good.
No doubt about
really
it.
Nice.
All right. Two
questions to wrap up. All right.
Okay.
Real quick one from Lance. Who will win the NCAA tournament? Who'd you pick?
I didn't finish my brackets. I'm doing that tonight. I don't want to say Florida because I'm not a Florida Gator fan, but I was talking to about this, about the Gators, Carlin Hartman and all the connections there.
Yeah.
I think, who am I going to pick here? I'm going to go with Auburn. I think Auburn's the best team. They're the number one overall seed.
Okay, that's fair. And then I'm going to pick Florida. And then the last one from Jimbo. If you could put any former Buffalo Bill not named
Great.
Bruce Smith on the team right now, who would it be? Because I think we would have both said Bruce Smith.
Yes, we'd both say Bruce Smith. This is all due respect to, boy, could they use a Thurman Thomas? Of course, but James Cook is really, really great at his role and what he does, right? Could they use Andre Reed? Of course, but is he going to be part of everybody eats mentality? I think I might go with a guy like Sam Adams, believe it or not.
Really?
Like a guy who can really stuff the run. Pat Williams, like somebody up front. What does this team need? You want to give me a corner? That's fine. You want to give me a go back in the day? Corner. You want to go to Charlie Romes? I'm going back to 80s, Matt. But I mean, like, what do you need on this team? That's the question. It's not who the greatest player was, because I could give me Darryl Talley. That's fine. Where's he playing? And I mean, like, what are these guys doing? I need a guy to stop the run, a Pat Williams, a Sam Adams.
So it's funny you went that direction, because when I first saw the question, I started to go back to, I think it has to be somebody, you're getting them in their prime, so you get to pick anybody in their prime. As crazy as this sounds, I might pick Kyle Williams.
Not a true run stuffer. He was everything.
I know,
but he was a very, very good player, no doubt.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Bills, yes.
I'm like, listen, he was so good and we saw him on, very good defensive lines. Because I first started thinking like Mario Williams. Mario Williams was an elite pass rusher. So I'm like, okay, I can't take Bruce Smith, but Mario Williams is really, really good. Then my mind goes to Schobel. And then I'm like, I don't think Schobel's got enough juice there. I didn't see Bryce Pop play. So like, I don't know quite enough about that. I don't know. There's so many good ones.
Maybe you could put a James Lofton on this team. Elite speed, Hall of Fame wide receiver.
Well, I thought about T.O. too, because it was like, okay, if you're getting them in their prime.
That's a really good one, actually. I like that.
T.O., but is T.O. everybody eats? Like, I don't know.
I know, right? I know. So if you want you want to go for career interceptions, you got to go all the way back to the end of the AFL days into the NFL. Butch Bird, 40 career interceptions, right? I mean, like, I could take a guy that could be a ball hawk. You know what I mean?
Is that Jairus' father?
No, it is not. They're not related, I believe.
Okay. My answer is T.O. My answer is Terrell Owens.
I think I might go with a Sam Adams or a Pat Williams. I need a true, huge run stuffer. Hey, if you want to go Fred Smirlis, everybody, I got it. Freddie was a really good player as well. All right. I do have one more for you. It's a fun question. I also threw this out there on the WGR Sports Radio 550 Extra Point Show. My wife and I also had a debate.
Okay.
And I thought originally she was crazy, but then I thought about it, and some people say, no, she's right. Who's more famous, Matt? Josh Allen or Haley Steinfeld? World famous. Who is more world famous? If you asked a random person in the world, who would they know more that, yes, I know what that person does? Josh Allen or Haley Steinfeld?
Haley Steinfeld.
Wow.
Is that
I
what
think it's Josh.
Is that what Yana said?
Yeah, yeah.
That's
what she said.
I think you are underestimating how big the Marvel universe is, because that's worldwide. And I think about,
would they know who she is though in Marvel Universe? Like, would they know she's the actress playing someone?
I think so. So we've talked about this at work. We've had this debate at work. I think in the United States, it's undoubtedly Josh Allen. I think in North America, it's also undoubtedly Josh Allen. Like, he is one of right now the 5 most famous players in the entire National Football League. But I think to other sports leagues around the globe and their premier players, and how quickly my knowledge for those players falls off. So I think of what's the biggest thing overseas, maybe the European Premier League. I might know 5 players in the entire league,
but the biggest ones. You know Messi and you know Beckham. You know, the greatest soccer players ever. I mean,
yeah, those guys.
American football is amazingly huge around the world.
Well, did you do the Instagram check? Because this plays a factor.
I don't know if that's fair though, because Haley Steinfeld does Instagram. That's part of her brand, which that's not what Josh does, right? I mean, he's on there, but he's not posting all the time. You know what I mean? I don't think that's fair, but I was surprised. She has 20 million.
20 million followers is a lot of followers.
It's amazing
on social media.
Yes.
It's a fantastic question. I would love to hear their perspective, because the problem is Josh would never give us like he would give us a very PR trained, politically correct answer. He would go, "Oh, my wife is, I don't know what he would say, my fiance, whatever." He would give us some great answer. I would love to know her perspective on it, though.
Okay, well, if we get a chance at some fundraiser that we're out at one night, because we've both been there with Josh, maybe Haley's there at some point going forward. That's my mission. Okay, we're gonna do that. We're gonna ask Josh and Haley this question. Okay, speaking of followers, we want you to follow us at Matt_Bang, at Sal Sports. Go to YouTube, subscribe to the page. We're getting there to closer to 12,000 subscribers at the YouTube page, so thank you very much, and please keep them coming at Sal Sports. Check us out, whenever we have these, because whenever the Bills make a move, we're going to be talking. We got the owners meetings coming up. We got the draft after that. And we also want to thank our producer, Mike Robier. All right, for Matt and for all the kids who I disrupted their practice here, and Coach Matt behind me, by the way, and his baseball team, we thank everybody for watching us. And it's always Game Day in Buffalo. Have a good one.